So I got a couple requests about some fishing stories. Like, hey, Uncle Jay, I bet you got some good fishing stories. Well, I got some interesting ones. You guys tell me if they're good. My grandpa used to take me fishing when I was a little kid out in Missouri. I grew up in the Missouri Boot Heel, right next to the Mississippi River. And there was Reelfoot Lake and a couple other spots he'd take me. And we'd go catfishing. And my grandpa, he served in World War II. And he was in the Mountain Division in the Army. I'm not entirely sure if he was under patent or not. But he's seen some shit. We'd go out fishing, and he told me stories that he never told his wife or his kids or anybody. But for some reason, he felt like telling a 5-year-old kid, me, stories. We used to go jugging for catfish. If you don't know what jugging is, my grandpa would take these empty 2-liter bottles of soda, the plastic bottles. He'd put the cap back on, and so there's air in it. And he'd tie string around it. And he had different ones that had different lengths of string, you know. And he'd put a hot dog, or I made a hook at the end with a hot dog on there, like a little piece of hot dog. And we probably have like 15 of them. And we would go out on the lake, and he would drive the boat, and he'd tell me to dump the jugs overboard. And so we just have like a bunch of them scattered around. And then we would motor away from the area and just turn around and sit and just from like 50 yards away, shut the engine off, open up the cooler, have a Snickers and a Pepsi, and just wait for some action. And this is when he told me these World War II stories. And it wasn't always about war. It's just we talk about everything. But every now and then he'd tell me these World War II stories that really like shook me to my core. He told me a story that he showed me a scar that was on top of his wrist and the top of his shoulder. I said, "What happened to you?" And he said that, I believe that he told me that he was in a tank that caught fire and he got out of it and he was running down the street. And he said sniper shot him. I'm a little kid. I don't know what a sniper is. I thought maybe that was the name of the guy that shot him. And he said that the sniper shot him and it hit his shoulder and it went underneath his skin and ran down his arm and popped out of his wrist. And he kept going. And I said, "Papa, where were you going?" He said, "I had no idea where I was going, but I was on my way." And we're just sitting in the boat. You know, this is like over the course of years, waiting for these jugs to start bobbing, you know, to let us know that a catfish had got it. And he told me that he was also with in a tank or something that went down a freshly paved road in Italy or something like that, and completely just tore up the new concrete, and the locals yelled at them and stuff, and he started laughing. He thought that was funny. And he also told me that he was there when they hung Benito Mussolini from a tree. He saw that shit. So I'm telling my friends at school about this stuff. I'm in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, or whatever. And yeah, well, my grandpa fucking shot Hitler. No, my grandpa did. You know, it's like everybody. It's a pissing contest on whose grandpa was the big war hero of fucking World War II and shit. And fucking, I'm like, I can't wait to get another story out of my grandpa. And I remember this one time he was telling me this other story, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask him how many guys he's killed. I said, "Grandpa, Papa, did you ever kill anybody in the war?" And he kind of looked down, he shook his head, and he said, "God, I hope not." And that was like such a big wake-up call for a little kid, you know, that really kind of made me realize, like, oh shit, you know, it's not like the movies. And I don't, and granted, like, my grandpa was not like a Nazi sympathizer or anything like that. I think that he just wanted to stay out of everything and just live a peaceful life. And he didn't want to ever hurt anybody or anything. And it really didn't hit me until Saving Private Ryan came out, and I saw that movie, and it made me realize, like, holy shit, this is what he went through. And I remember my mom and everybody were like, oh, we're for fucking Veterans Day or his birthday or something. We got all of his medals, and we're going to have him professionally put inside a case so he can hang it up on the wall. And he'll be very proud of that. And I said, that's not a good idea. I don't think you should do that. I think you should just, take him out to eat and stuff and leave him alone. And don't fucking do that. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. He'd love it. He's very proud of what he did in the war. And I said, well, I warned you. And sure as shit, he's at the fucking table, opened up his present, looked at that, and just got up and left the room. And I remember calling them like a couple days later. I'm like, well, how'd that go? Well, I don't understand. He just got up and walked out of the room. I said, well, I fucking told you. Anyway, getting back to the fishing stories. So, jugging. We would sit there and we'd sit there and wait, and like one or two of the jugs would like kind of twitch a little bit in the water. That means you got a little bit of nibble on your hook. But if you saw one go underneath the water for a little bit and splash back up and start moving around, that means fish on. So he'd turn the motor on, and we'd chase after the jug all over the place, trying to catch the fish. And we'd grab the jug. I'd grab the jug, pull it in, get the net underneath it, and we'd catch catfish that way. A lot of times we'd catch alligator gars, and those things are assholes. And my grandpa did not like fucking alligator gars. Every time we'd catch one, he'd kill it. And yeah, and and he taught me something that was really cool too. Like, there were times where we would go fishing, but we wouldn't go fishing. We'd go out and then come right back home. And because there were a lot of people that would fish from the shore, and he'd drive by real slow, and he'd say, all right, Jay, I want you to look at these people. If they're sitting on their buckets, that means the fish aren't biting. I said, okay, how do you know if the fish are biting? He said, because if the bucket is turned up and they're not sitting on it, that means that they caught something and put it in the bucket, and that's a good day to go fishing. He said, if everybody's sitting on a bucket, we're going back home. I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty smart. And my buddy Steve, old D's Nuts, the fucking guy that almost ran over that manager at Denny's and introduced me to hockey and got me that trophy and everything. He'd never left California before. And he's Scottish and Mexican. What a mix that is. He's a Scotsican. He had never left California before. And I told him stories about fishing with my grandpa and with Papa. He said, fuck, I'd love to go. I think I was 16 at the time, or whatever. And we're like, fuck it, let's go. We'll go to Missouri. We'll do a road trip. So we took his dad's car and we drove cross country. Spent the night in Arizona off Highway 40 at the old Mayfair Motel. And fuel pump went out. We were stuck out there. Found a mechanic that'd fix it for $100. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We could have fixed that ourselves, but at the time we didn't know. We thought $100 was a good deal to get the car up and running again. Made it to Missouri, and nobody in town ever saw a Hispanic before, so they're kind of like, oh wow. It's just such a small town. Nobody ever left except for me, so it was fun. It was exciting and shit. And old D's, he's like fucking hey, this is cool. So what do we do for fun, on weekends and shit? I'm like, oh, we just cruise Main Street. He's like, fuck yeah, let's do that. This is funny. Friday night, 8 o'clock. We fucking get cleaned up, put on the fucking Drakkar Noir fucking cologne from the mall, get all gussied up, and we're, all right, Steve, let's go cruise Main Street. Get in the car, and we hit Main Street. We go from one end of Main Street to the other, turn around, and go back. And he said, what the fuck are we doing, Jay? I'm like, we're cruising Main Street. And of course, cars are just fucking going all around and around and around and shit for fucking hours on end. And he said, are you kidding me? This is what you guys do for fun? I'm like, this is all there is, dude. There's no arcade. There's nothing. We just cruise Main Street on Friday, Saturday nights. There's no drive-in. There's no movie theater. There's fucking nothing here. Absolutely nothing. There's like 2 bars. That's it. And he starts like slinking down in the seat because he didn't want to be seen. He's all embarrassed. He's like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, you just keep cruising Main Street until you see somebody that you want to talk to and say, meet me over at the fucking grocery store and we'll fucking go shoot bottle rockets and shoot guns or whatever and then get drunk or whatever. So it is a little bit of a culture shock for him being a SoCal city guy and stuff. And it was kind of funny. And I'm like, all right, we're going to go fishing with Papa. So we went jugging with my Papa. And fucking, we got the Pepsis. We got the Snickers bar. We're in the boat. We're all set up. And we get the jugs out and with the hot dogs. And we're 50 yards away and we're waiting for some action. And I've never seen this happen before. All the times I went jugging with Papa, I've never seen this. One of the jugs starts twitching. And all of a sudden, it starts kind of moving, going through the water and stuff. And then it goes underneath the water. Now, when one of these jugs goes underneath the water, it pops right back up. Then it goes down again and comes right back up. That's a pretty strong fish. This thing went down underneath the water. And I shit you not, like 3 seconds goes by, and then it pops up like 10 feet away. Holy shit, we got a monster catfish. My Papa fucking gets the engine going, and we're roaring full steam ahead. We're chasing this thing. And he's really good, like moving the boat, and he's barking out commands. So, Jay, grab the net. Steve, fuck, get ready. And we get close to it, and it's hauling ass. The jug is going so fast in the water that it's creating a wake. It's like a scene out of Jaws. And Steve grabs the jug, and he's like, argh! And he's lifting it up because it's so heavy. And you see this fucking Leviathan catfish get close to the surface. And I'm getting the net, and I'm trying to get underneath it. And as soon as I put my net in the water, it spit out the hook and just took off. And Steve said, son of a bitch! And he slammed the jug down in the boat. And nobody has ever cussed in front of my Papa. But Steve did. And he did that. And I look at my Papa like, hey, don't leave. I was expecting him, don't be using that language for a young man or whatever. He starts laughing his ass off. He thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world. It could have been the biggest catfish in the lake that we just, with a butt hair, just barely missed. He didn't care. He thought it was so funny. Steve's reaction from that is the funniest fucking thing. And fuck, that was such a fun memory. And every now and then I talk to Deez and we talk about it. He's become an avid fisherman since that trip to Missouri. He bought a boat, named it after his mom, and he goes out fishing all the time. He's got 2 kids. They go fishing. They're up at Bass Lake all the time. And it really had an impact on him. That one fishing trip really kind of lit the fuse in him and stuff. So that was a really cool thing. And yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to think of what else. Some other fish. Oh yeah! Oh my God! So my other grandpa out in Wardell, on my dad's side, he had like a little, it used to be like a gas station, but then they stopped doing gas and just selling like auto parts and candy and shit and Pepsis and stuff like that, out of there. And all the old timers would show up in the morning with their coffee, and they'd sit around and just tell stories all damn day. Then they'd go home. There was a guy that was kind of a regular there that would go in there and buy stuff. he was a guy, he was like the only guy in the area that had scuba equipment. And what this guy used to do, this guy used to go in the Mississippi River whenever there was a big flood up north. He'd wait like a few days or whatever, and then he would jump in the river and go searching these cars that got washed away in the flood. He would scuba dive and swim into these cars and loot them. He'd like go looking for money and valuables or whatever. He'd search all these cars and shit that washed away down in Missouri. And this guy shows up. I remember I was there when he showed up, and he said to all the old timers and everything, he said, "Guys, I'm selling my scuba gear. If anybody wants it, I'll give it away cheap. If anybody wants my scuba shit, I'm selling it." And they're like, "Why are you selling your stuff?" He's like, I'm just you know, I'm done. I'm not gonna get in the river anymore. I think I'm just gonna do something else." Well, why the change of heart? You're not doing that shit anymore? Fucking, there's a big flood up north and all that shit came down. Why aren't you changing your mind? What's going on? So they're trying to get some information out of him. Like why he's selling all this scuba stuff. Because in Missouri, you can't just go down the street and buy scuba shit. Especially in the 70s. It's just not, you can't find it anywhere, you know? And here's what this guy said. I was there when he said this. He said that he was in a car, and he's searching the glove box and stuff, looking around. He's like, there's nothing in here. I'm gonna go check another one. He went to get out of the car, and he said that he saw a catfish that was about 8 or 9 feet long, that was circling the car and like trying to get him, like swallow him, like trying to suck him in. And he stayed in that fucking car until he almost ran out of air. And by the time that happened, the catfish gave up, lost interest, and swam off. And that put the fear in this guy, where he's like, "Fuck this! I'm not getting in this river again." And yeah. And then like a couple weeks later, the Miller boys fucking dropped off a Polaroid. They caught like a 60-pound catfish in that same area. But not the one that this guy was talking about. And I guess catfish don't have like a... They just keep growing until they die. And this thing was a monster, and it was like a grouper. And it was really hungry and tried to fucking kill this guy. Like, tried to eat him. And anyway, fishing stories. Let's keep going here. I got another one. In Camarillo, California, there's a place called Lakeside Village, and I used to hop the wall behind Denny's to get into this private gated community, and I'd go fishing out in the middle of the night with my buddies, and I caught this catfish, little fucker, put him in my bucket, and I had a sidecar, like a side hack on my BMX bike, and I bungeed my my bucket there with all my tackle and shit, and I stopped at this apartment complex. This gal I was friends with named Brandy, she lived there, and she had they had a big swimming pool, and I took the catfish and I put it in the pool, and I just watched it swim around and stuff, and God knows what people were thinking the next day when they saw a catfish in their community pool. Oh God, there's another one. I can't think right now. Fishing stories. I think that's probably it. It'll come to me when I end this freaking video. More fishing stories. Alright, yeah, I guess that's it. Alright, I'm gonna fuck off. This video's getting too long. I'm starting to ramble. You guys are getting bored. High fives and boners if you liked it. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit that notification thing. It's all free. Check out my Twitch. I'm going to start streaming on Saturdays. Send me your funny poop stories. I'm going to put my email down below. You can do that. And it doesn't even have to be a poop story. It could just be a funny story, something that happened to you in your life, and I'll read it live on Twitch when I'm streaming, playing games, and hanging out with you guys. And yeah, thank you very much. High fives and boners, and I will see you later.